I have good news regarding Joni, indeed. Plan to go. However, I feel so secure at night when we pray together. When Joni Lamb stated that, nobody, not even her closest friends, anticipated it. Her statements were so forceful, frightening, and honest that everyone were in a state of shock. People's jaws dropped as they gazed at it with wide eyes. Was that the whole truth? A warning or an admission? Whatever it was, it's already sending shockwaves through the Christian community. If you believed the story was over, you were mistaken. Everything is different now. Here we go again. Everything is different now. Like all past Daystar shows, it started off that way. The cameras were rolling and the studio lights were on. Joni Lamb was sitting in her usual spot, confident and at ease, and a grin. Millions of people had trusted her as faith for years. However, it felt different this time. She spoke steadily. Indeed, her eyes, however, sent a different message. You could see it if you looked closely enough. Then she said it. They appeared heavy and exhausted. Whatever it was, nobody was prepared for it. At first, everybody believed they had misheard her. It's possible that she was employing a figure of speech. It might have simply been a poor line. But no. As the video repeatedly aired online, it became evident. She spoke with sincerity. Within minutes, social media was a flurry of activity. Everyone discussed it in responses, screenshots, and church group discussions. Joni said what? What was the reason for her statement? What was the true meaning of it? This word wasn't a typo or an odd one. This was prearranged. Her timing, her tone, everything about her seemed prearranged, but it was the way she spoke that truly took people by surprise. Joni did not cry. She made a snap decision. She looked directly into the camera and spoke as if she had nothing to lose. People were taken aback. While some viewed it as betrayal, others saw it as bravery. Either way, the shock was immediate and powerful. People behind her could see the team moving clumsily, with a host's hand trembling and a producer's eyes wandering. The room was quieter than she was, and something was amiss. Supporters who had sensed it for a while got something sacred was trembling. Something was breaking. This was not merely a news item. It was a significant shift. Joni Lamb represented truth, family, and faith for many years. She suddenly became the focus of a great deal of curiosity and conjecture. People weren't only perplexed by what she stated. They felt as though the person who had supported them had removed their disguise, betraying their confidence. Some defended her, stating that she might be speaking the truth at last. For years, several people believed they had been misled. However, one thing was certain: there was no trust anymore. When confidence is lost, there is no sound. The sound it produces is so powerful that it can be heard for years. There was almost too much silence for Joni to hear after the news that had taken everyone by surprise. Lamb's remark. People waited, first with curiosity, then with perplexity, and then with rage. Joni had always been a straightforward speaker who made snap decisions when things became difficult. When everyone else was waiting for her to speak, she remained silent. It was quite silent. Dayar's social media accounts lacked an explanation or follow-up. Only more joyful images and well-chosen Bible passages were present. However, the damage was already done. During the quiet, ideas may circulate. They spread like flames, not merely grew larger. The same questions started to be asked in online chat forums, prayer groups, and churches. What was happening in the background? For the first time in years, Joni was not being quoted by fans. They wanted to ask her some questions. And tiny fissures became enormous holes as the quiet deepened. Ministries that had previously collaborated with Dayar began to discreetly withdraw without releasing any statements to the public. There was stillness, no public announcement, no farewell broadcast. Suddenly, names that had previously appeared on the network's key programming were absent. Some organizations that had collaborated extensively with the Lamb family ceased to discuss them altogether. Those around Joni started to see things they could no longer ignore, even if she remained silent. Whispering began among those who were proud to be a member of the team and had previously worked at Dayar, stayed there or assisted. Some of those murmurs became texts from unidentified individuals. Some became heated discussions. Their tones were all the same. Something was different. Individuals discussed the demanding environment on set, the fact that choices were made without consulting anyone, and Joni's sense of isolation as a result of everyone around her telling her only what she wanted to hear. One employee claimed that following Marcus's passing, everything altered. It feels like cold business now, yet before they shared like family. Some discussed how money was being squandered on pointless items, expensive vacations, expensive clothing, and secret private parties. Some claimed that after asking questions, they were even fired. No cause, nothing to discuss. It continued. In an attempt to uncover clues and determine whether the indicators had always existed, people began to rewatch past episodes. Some actually claimed to be Joni's body language, speech, and the manner she consistently avoided asking specific questions during interviews were all altered. Marcus also appeared to be feeling under the weather at times, but at the time, nobody dared to question it. Now those days didn't appear the same. In all the silence and conversation, that one name kept coming up. Joni's daughter is Rachel Lamb Brown. At first her presence looked normal, a daughter intervening to support her depressed mother. As time passed, Rachel took on increasingly significant tasks. She wasn't only filling in anymore. She made calls, hosted shows, and connected with influential preachers, and people recognized that she was in charge. It was perceived by some as an attempt to acquire power. Some believed it was prearranged from the beginning. Anyway, Rachel's ascent added to the tension between the Dayar squad and the supporters. For many years the ministry's backers were divided. There were many who wanted to believe Joni was still in command, and in the lead. For some, Rachel became the network's new face. Things became even less stable because of the disagreement. The fact that more than just individuals were divided was the most depressing aspect. It was the family too. Joni and her son Jonathan appeared to be struggling with their relationship, extremely anxious. When Marcus passed away, Jonathan quietly retreated. Susie, his wife, quit appearing in TV series and films. They were unconcerned. Nothing noteworthy was written by them. They vanished from view. They simply remained silent whenever someone inquired about their whereabouts. Eventually, more fragments emerged. Jackie Evans spoke up. He is well trusted by both Daystar and Lamb's supporters. He described how uncomfortable it had been to be asked to facilitate a conversation that felt more like obeying rules than offering healing. According to Jimmy, Joni wanted her son to completely obey her. She did not speak as a son, but as if she were God herself. Everyone was taken aback. Even those who had before put up a fierce fight for Joni were rendered incoherent upon hearing it. Susie and Jonathan weren't misbehaving. They had no desire to assume control. All they were trying to do was ask questions and be honest in order to protect their daughter from something they believed to be harmful. They were expelled as a result. As more of these statistics became available, the difference continued to widen. Supporters, religious leaders, groups, and even members of the same church within the Lamb household. It was more than just a breach of trust. It was ripped. People found it difficult to determine whom to trust. Joni refused to answer questions, so people made up their own stories, which was worse than any fiction. Everything went haywire when Joni revealed during the podcast that there were others in Marcus's immediate vicinity who weren't watching out for him. Was she telling the truth now, or was she shifting the blame in an attempt to alter the past before it caught up with her? People were injured anew in ways they had never really recovered from by a single brief comment that was only a few words long. The disparities between fans who believed they were over it grew even wider as a result of their increased questions and subsequent stories. According to some, Joni feared for her family. Some believed she was attempting to protect herself. Some were certain that the truth had not yet been revealed. But everyone was in agreement about this. The Daystar had changed. There was no warmth left. I didn't believe it. People also felt more distant because of the silence surrounding it all. The split was no longer limited to the internet. In addition to families who had been viewing Dayar together for many years, it also took place in schools and people's homes. Some waited in the hopes that Joni would speak again. Others discreetly quit subscribing or following and went on. In the center of it all was Joni Lam. She remained at the center of a storm that she had once managed to control, but was now unable to do so. It was not readable or audible. The interview wasn't supposed to be a huge deal. In fact, many individuals nearly missed it. Daystar was without it. Many individuals did not watch it in real time, not on a major Christian television network. A clergyman and his spouse operated a modest podcast. On a regular basis, about 1,000 individuals listened. A peaceful place on the internet where individuals discussed their beliefs, their own journeys, and how to get better. Because of this, no one saw what was about to happen. Nothing significant was said by Joni Lam's team. There were no preview tweets, hype videos, or countdown. She simply appeared. Additionally, the program ended so softly that nobody could hear her words until it was finished, and suddenly the whisper became a shout. At first, Joni was composed. As she had done 100 times before, she nodded, smiled, and responded to the host's opening inquiry. She discussed her bereavement, her faith, and a depressing journey following Marcus's passing. She did, however, alter the tone of her voice in the middle of the chat. Her gaze darkened, her voice grew softer, she leaned somewhat closer, and everyone was stunned by what she said. I didn't see it until it was too late, but Marcus had people around him who weren't looking out for him, she whispered softly. Both the hosts and the listeners stopped moving. The entire Christian community held their breath. Joni opened a door that had been locked for years with a single sentence. The story had been straightforward for a long time. Joni led the ministry with elegance and courage, and Marcus passed away unexpectedly from COVID complications. That was the clean and tidy story. However, Joni was now raising a more sinister issue, something that people repeatedly viewed that segment of the interview, dissecting each phrase, pause and breath she made. Did she have someone to blame? Was she defending herself? Was she fabricating a diversion? Or was she finally speaking the truth? There were theories. Some believed she was referring to her own employees, particularly DR leaders who might have possessed excessive authority. Others assumed she was referring to her daughter Rachel, who had gained notoriety following Marcus's passing. Others believed it had to do with Doug Weiss, whom Joni had married shortly after she became a widow. As the thoughts developed, Daystar readers from the past filled the comment sections with. Many of the old fans were left unsure of what to believe, and many who hadn't watched in years returned just to hear that tape. The interview didn't stop there though. Additional words from Joni were, "I thought I understood the people around me, but grief reveals a lot, and occasionally you come to the realization that the person you believe to be there beside you wasn't actually there." The public perception of Joni Lam as a powerful widow, a loyal leader and a lady who continued her husband's legacy was gone, and for many the ministry as a whole was at stake, not just Joni. What could have occurred if Marcus had been with the wrong people? Behind the scenes, mayhem ensued. In private, leaders who had previously collaborated with Dayar asked one another if they had heard the interview. Some reacted with rage, some with concern, and some immediately began to pull away. Churches withdrew from the network in silence. Appearances of guest speakers were cancelled. Previously active Dayar social media accounts stopped posting. The Daystar offices became agitated. Online speculations of emergency meetings began to circulate after staff members were instructed not to speak. While some workers stayed but didn't say goodbye, others departed without saying anything. Rachel's less frequent appearances on camera caught people's attention. She appeared more solemn, less put together, and less confident when she did, as if she was aware that things were going wrong but was unsure of how to stop it. Even Doug Weiss, a frequent contributor to Joni's blogs and appearances, ceased participating. While some said he was being sheltered, others questioned whether the marriage was already failing. They were inquiring, but no one knew for sure. Not only was the content of the interview strong, but so was the manner in which it was delivered. Joni didn't behave like a victim, cry or raise her voice. She sounded as though she had finally made the decision to give up acting, as though she had been holding a secret for too long and was at last unable to keep it to herself. The main reason people were concerned about Joni was that she must have been concealing something else if she was suddenly speaking the truth. emails from former workers, denials of old material, and more inquiries with fewer and fewer answers were among the other stories that surfaced. Why did Marcus pass away so soon? What caused the funeral to be hurried? Why did Joni marry a man with a contentious past so soon after? Why did dependable employees go after posing inquiries? What caused so many pastors to resign without providing an explanation? Joni eventually revealed some of the truth after years of quiet. Everyone agreed that it made logic, yet some referred to it as deceptive, while others termed it daring. 2 days later, it was removed without prior notice or justification. The host remained silent. The clip had already been downloaded, copied, mirrored and reposted, so it didn't matter if Joni never mentioned it again. It was impossible to retract the words once they were out there. Perhaps that was the purpose. Joni might have been aware of what she was doing. Perhaps she should have spoken up while she was still able to do so, or perhaps her intention was to assign blame before others.